that you are talking about engagement, because that's, that's my core thing. I always say people come to me when they're done branding, when they're done funnels, when they're done doing all that stuff, and now they need someone to pay attention to them and actually engage with their content. That's when we start having a conversation, because it's so important, right? What do you think is at the core of engagement nowadays? Because you wrote the book in 2014. Now, 5 years later, there's a lot of AI, there are a lot of ad blockers, right? We're kind of like overwhelmed with everything that's going on right now, that our attention is not where it used to be 5 years ago. So I'm sure, the book and the model really do apply, but there are probably nuances that you discovered throughout the years that, apply more to what we're doing today. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, it's amazing. So I did a 5-year revision. So my publisher asked me to look back through the book and walk through it all and actually look at all the examples and all the companies I mentioned. And with very rare exception, all of the companies that I kind of spotted early as really these masters of engagement and retention are still doing great. If anything, the company that's taken the biggest hit is Facebook. And I think the reason I talked a lot, Facebook I use as this company that has really nailed engagement. They really understand what I call the hook model, which we can get into a little later, really, really well. But what's interesting is just because you build a customer habit doesn't mean you've got that habit for life. I mean, if you have a customer habit, it's a huge competitive advantage, right? It's very difficult for the competition to swoop in and take your customer away. There's probably no better example than Google, right? One of the things that forming a habit does for you is that, if the definition of a habit is a behavior done with little or no conscious thought, what that means is that customers will use your product without even giving the competition a chance. Think about that. When you Google something, do you ask yourself and say, I wonder, does Google still have the best search engine? Maybe I should give Bing a try. No, you just do it. You just Google something with little or no conscious thought. Poor Bing doesn't stand a chance. So once you have that habit, it is a huge competitive advantage. Now, you can lose it. I think what we see today with Facebook is that, I talk about in the hook model, these 4 basic steps of a trigger, action, reward, and an investment. And the hook can certainly break. If one of the elements of the hook is deficient, I think what's happening right now with Facebook is that people don't find it rewarding. So that 3rd step of the hook, the reward phase, people find it's not fulfilling anymore, and they're going to alternatives. They're using Instagram instead. They're using Snapchat instead. They're using something else because Facebook proper isn't doing it for them anymore. So you could certainly, there's lots of examples of companies that had the hook nailed, had a customer habit, and for one reason or another lost it. But it takes time. It's one of the advantages of a habit is that unlike companies that don't have a habit, companies that don't build a habit constantly compete on 2 things: features and price. That's all they compete on: features and price all day long. Companies that form a habit, however, don't compete on those factors anymore. They lock in the customer's behavior, and they don't, they find that customers are less price sensitive. They don't have to constantly upgrade features because customers are using the product habitually.